A Saturday afternoon in 1963. An 8-year-old child hears the pop lorry turn into the street before seeing it, glass bottles clinking in wooden crates. The mother had left 2 empty bottles on the doorstep the night before. The pop man swapped them without being asked. Cold Cherryade for 2 empties. That was the deal. Nobody announced when the vans would stop coming. No press release. No final delivery. Just absence where there had been ritual. 5 fizzy drinks that defined British childhood in the 1960s and vanished without ceremony. In the 5th place, Quash arrives with a splash of concentrated optimism. Launched in the early 1960s by Beecham Soft Drinks, Quash was the cordial you diluted yourself, poured from a squat glass bottle and stretched across a week of school lunches and summer teas. The brand's most enduring legacy might be Mr. Quarange, the orange-faced mascot who grinned from badges, bottle labels, and the corners of children's TV screens. Saturday mornings in 1982 brought the jingle "Quash for flavour, Quash for fun," wedged between cartoons and cereal adverts, a tune that still sticks in the mind even if the full lyrics have faded. Despite national reach and deep Beecham pockets, Quash was the first of these 5 to vanish. By the mid-1990s, with Britvic in charge and supermarkets on the march, the last Quash van quietly disappeared from the roads. No afterlife in the Caribbean, no cult revival, just a memory of flavour, fun, and a mascot lost to time. Number 4 brings Peardrax, the pear-flavoured fizz that began life in Devon's cider country and ended up a legend in the Caribbean. Originally crafted by Whiteways in Wimple, Peardrax was the non-alcoholic answer to the region's cider heritage, a sweet, gently sparkling drink poured from squat glass bottles and often found at school tuck shops or Sunday teas. By the late 1960s, Whiteways had been swept up by allied breweries, and Peardrax's reach stretched well beyond Devon, thanks to the might of a national distribution network. Yet for all its wholesome branding, Peardrax divided opinion. Satirist Victor Lewis Smith immortalized it as a foul, resinous, cloying, sweet beverage, a verdict that still echoes in nostalgic forums and newspaper columns. The real break came in 1988, when Allied Lions pulled the plug on Peardrax and its Apple sibling Cidrax in the UK, citing waning sales and a market tilting toward colas and supermarket own brands. But extinction at home was just the start of a second act abroad. The rights changed hands, and by the 2000s, Peardrax had become a staple in Trinidad and Tobago, bottled by Hand Arnold Trinidad and poured at weddings as a symbol of celebration and continuity. In Britain, the original Peardrax vanished along with the pop man's knock on the door, but in the Caribbean, its sweet floral fizz lives on, proof that a drink can outlast its origins, even if it's remembered at home as much for its aftertaste as for its taste. Number 3 brings Dandelion and Burdock, the drink that managed to taste like both a hedgerow and a chemist's back room. Its history stretches back to the Middle Ages, when monks and herbalists brewed a lightly fermented tonic from the roots of dandelion and burdock, part medicine, part treat, and entirely British in its eccentricity. By the 1960s, the drink had become a staple of regional bottlers, each with their own take on the recipe. Ben Shaw's of Huddersfield poured it into squat glass bottles, their labels promising a taste of tradition. Corona in South Wales shipped it out alongside Cherryade and Limeade, while Fentimans in the north kept faith with a botanically brewed version, still using a live fermentation process that echoed the original medieval method. For many, the ritual was as important as the flavour. A bottle left on the doorstep, a pop and hiss that meant the weekend had arrived, and a taste that was bittersweet, earthy, slightly medicinal, yet oddly comforting. But the 1980s brought a quiet revolution. As cost pressures mounted and shelf life became king, the old fermentation process gave way to artificial flavourings and sweeteners. What had once been a living drink, brewed for 48 hours and bottled with pride, became a syrupy, caramel-coloured shadow of itself. Ben Shaw's still markets a dandelion and burdock, but the label now lists artificial sweeteners and caramel colour, and the taste is a memory filtered through a modern palate. Only Fentimans, clinging to its roots, offers a glimpse of the original, a proper botanical brew, fizzy with a hint of wildness, and a reminder that not all nostalgia is imagined. The extinction here is not just a vanished brand, but a lost recipe, a shift from the local and living to the industrial and shelf-stable. In the world of British pop, Dandelion and Burdock is both survivor and casualty, a drink that changed inside the bottle, even as the bottle stayed the same. Number 2 brings Corona, the Welsh soft drink giant whose reach stretched from the valleys to almost every doorstep in Britain. Founded in the 1880s by William Thomas and William Evans, Corona began as Welsh Hills Mineral Waters, a temperance answer to the working man's pint. By the 1970s, Corona had built an empire of 87 depots, each one a hive of glass bottles, clinking crates, and the steady rhythm of delivery vans weaving through streets from Swansea to Sheffield. 12 million bottles left those depots in 1975 alone, a scale that turned the Corona Man into a minor celebrity in every neighbourhood he served. The advertising was as fizzy as the drink itself. "Every bubble's past its physical," the slogan bounced through television sets in a 1976 cartoon advert, a chorus of animated bubbles promising a sharp limeade or a deep red cherryade that no supermarket-own brand could quite imitate. For many, that jingle is inseparable from the sound of bottles rattling in a wire crate, a Saturday treat or a birthday party table laid out in primary colours. Corona's corporate journey was as eventful as any soap opera. Beecham bought the business in 1958, bringing a new era of national advertising and streamlined branding. Then in 1987, Corona passed to Britvic, who began the slow process of winding down the depot network, nudging the brand off the doorstep and onto the supermarket shelf. By the late 1990s, the last Corona van had vanished, and with it, a way of life built on local delivery and weekly ritual. Yet the legacy lingers. The old bottling works in Porth became the Pop Factory, a music venue whose name still echoes the brand's heyday. And then there's Tango, the orange soda first launched by Corona in April 1958, now a household name, a rare survivor of the original range. Corona's story is one of scale and spectacle, of a brand that managed to be both proudly Welsh and quietly woven into the fabric of British childhood, right up until the moment the pop man's knock faded into memory. And finally, in first place, Alpine Pop stands as the last great survivor of the British doorstep soda ritual, a bright yellow van rolling through the streets of Sunderland, County Durham, and out into the wilds of Northumberland, long after the rest had faded into memory. Founded in the mid-1960s, Alpine was never a national giant. It was a one-depot wonder, a regional bottler with a delivery zone mapped out in the minds of children who waited each week for the pop man's arrival. The Alpine van, painted a shade somewhere between daffodil and warning sign, became a mobile landmark. Its bold lettering, Alpine, Here Comes the Pop Man, was both a promise and a weekly headline. The pop man himself was more than a driver. He was a familiar face, a bringer of fizz, and sometimes the only adult who would let you hand over empties and choose your own flavour. Oral histories from Sunderland recall the ritual, the sound of glass bottles clinking in the crate, the shout of the driver as he turned the corner, the scramble to the front door with a handful of coins and 2 empties for every full. By 1985, the Alpine depot was shifting 13,000 bottles a week, each one a ticket to a Saturday treat or a birthday party table groaning with orangeade, limeade, and the elusive Dandelion and Burdock. The company held out against supermarket expansion, against the rise of plastic, against the slow rationalisation that swept away smaller bottlers across Britain. But by 1992, the numbers no longer added up. The last Alpine van made its run, the depot fell silent, and the yellow lorry was retired. Its chassis now sits in the Sunderland Museum, a relic of a vanished system. Alpine's extinction was not just the end of a brand, but the final heartbeat of a neighbourhood ritual. The popman's cheery shout, the anticipation of a crate on the doorstep, the sense that a drink could belong to a place and a community, all of it faded with that last delivery. In the end, Alpine Pop outlasted the giants, not by scale, but by stubborn local pride and the sheer strength of memory. Its story closes the arc from national decline to the last neighborhood farewell, leaving behind a question that lingers long after the bottles are gone. Who remembers the Pop Man now, and who will tell their story? Across all 5 lost sodas, one truth fizzes up. Supermarket shelves replace not just flavors, but the bond between business and street. What vanished was a ritual, doorstep bottles, jingles, and neighbors who knew your name. Which drink do you remember? Someone should know. Share your memories below.